All right, so let's talk about this Russia, Putin, and this coup situation, right? So a lot of people talking about various theories, what's really going on. I'm going to share some perspectives, and I want to, again, anchor you on what I've said in the past. I've said that Putin, right? I'm not here to vouch for him, his past, his future, but what he's doing is he's dismantling the deep state. He's helping to tear down this modern day sort of evil that's going on. And if you want to bring in Trump, if you want to bring in Xi Jinping and China, again, they have a common enemy. Nobody's saying they're perfect. Nobody's saying that they're holy men of God. What's happening is that God is using them to dismantle and tear down what has been this ruling elite through the banking system, through, infiltrating governments, through, using three-letter agencies, CIA, FBI, these guys, and many other countries, color revolutions, many things have been happening, and these guys have been ruling for a long time. And God is using these countries, Trump and Russia and many other, these BRICS nations, to stop what basically has been a financial handcuffs for many people for a long time. And so this BRICS alliance, right, you have the gold-backed digital currency where we are basically witnessing the collapse of the world banking system and this Federal Reserve, Rockefeller, Rothschild system that we are in. So these guys are panicking. So they're doing everything they can to try to control the narrative. Again, from the West point of view, you have to put your Christ hat on. You have to put the mind of Christ on. You don't want to put on this Western ideology, demonizing Putin, demonizing Russia, demonizing everything that they're doing. No, if you look into it and you're not caught up in propaganda, you will see what they, and again, I'm not saying their past was perfect and what they're doing, their human rights stuff. I'm not saying all those things. I'm not vouching for it. I'm saying if you take off the hat of the Western world, then you can see with objective eyes, with Christ like eyes, to see what really is going on. So you have to do some research, you have to pray, you have to be objective, but it's very difficult because there's such a strong Western propaganda going on with all of Russia, and if you want to bring in China as well. And again, there are good people in China, there are bad people. A lot of the communist regime that is not good. A lot of the ideology is not godly, of course. They're against Christians. So that's something that it is of a red flag. But again, God could use certain kings and presidents and people groups. He's done that in the past, in the Old Testament, if you read the Bible, and he can do that again. And he's been doing that throughout the ages. So God's will, his sovereign plan, and his will be done is the major thing. Now let's take a look at what has happened. A lot of theories. Again, the West is going to paint this as a coup attempt, and they're going to make it look like there's instability in Russia and just many other things. New York Times, CNN both reported that the intelligence community knew about this coup weeks ago, and Biden as well. And so they got their talking points. They're queuing it up until it happens. And when it did, when some a resemblance of this sort of migration or this walk, this march to Moscow and all this stuff has been happening, they amped it up like crazy. So these mainstream media journalists were, already just kind of making this sound like it was the end of Putin. The Russian forces and the Russian citizens were just inside of this, or it caught up in the midst of the civil war and this conflict and all of that stuff, right? And so they were talking it up, except that when Putin had dropped these charges, Wagner was the Wagner group, and if you just very briefly, the leader of it, Prigozhin of the Wagner group, which is they say it's about 25K soldiers, but it seems like 7,000-ish soldiers were marching towards Moscow. But basically, this was the world's fastest coup attempt that ended in hours. And with these charges being dropped and Wagner given safe haven, it's shocked and basically is throwing the deep state, these journalists and all these guys, off course. So if the three-letter agencies knew that Wagner and Prigozhin, this coup was going to happen 2 weeks ago, then and they were ready to drop this story, wouldn't you think that Putin and these guys knew about it beforehand, before CIA Biden? And of course Putin did, right? So the mainstream media is reporting that he knew about it 48 hours before, but really he knew about it way before, right? And in fact, some people say it's staged and all that stuff. How far you want to go with that, that's okay. You can have your thoughts there, but really what the media is portraying at face value, I've always said, take with a grain of salt, whether it's the Wall Street Journal or somebody quote unquote reputable, or whether it's a non-Western source, whatever it is, whatever they tell you, whatever is being reported versus what may be happening, you have to discern that there are layers behind it, as I've said before. So again, these tanks, these soldiers were coming across, and think about it. If Russia wanted to, they could have bombed and just stopped these guys dead in their tracks, but they got within, 200 meters or kilometers or whatever it is, they got supposedly super close before, this ceasefire and all this stuff was reached. And so if they were let through, think about this. Why did Putin allow Prigozhin to reach so far into Russia with their, whatever thousands of troops and all these tanks, right? And you got to realize that they were passing through, right? Checkpoints, Russian cities, all these military bases, Russian squadrons, and, before coming near to Moscow. You got to realize that Putin, the Russian generals, these guys, they're sharp, they're smart, they're playing them at their own game. He's sending a strong message back to, whoever it is, the CIA, the intelligence community, Biden, Obama, the NATO regime, these guys, saying that their final coup plans had failed. Their final attempt, their final stand failed. And so realize that, these guys, right, Prigozhin and these Wagner forces, they could have been executed. They could have done, again, case by case, but they were able to walk free. And it's possible and probable that Prigozhin will be used in the coming plans to expose the CIA, NATO, MI6, all these guys. There's panic right now in DC. There's panic at the Pentagon. There's panic at the CIA. And their attempt has failed. And so, again, the mainstream media is shocked behind closed doors, and this hype is crumbled, but they're trying all they can to grasp at straws following what has happened. So, again, be very cautious. Be wary of how people are portraying things, how they're amping things up. Russia is safe. Russia is in control of the whole situation in terms of the Ukraine stuff and just their citizens, their army, and all that stuff. Again, whatever the media is saying, remember the hats that are being put on and what lens you view certain things. And at the same time, be very careful because you just can't take things at face value. So that's why I waited a little bit, wanted to see what was being brought up. But again, right now you're witnessing a cleansing. The money laundering system in Ukraine, all the Hunter Biden stuff, all of the Western CIA, FBI, whoever, right, meddling that they have, as well as the crimes against humanity. You're going to see that being exposed. You're going to see that being brought to justice. And who knows, whatever other bioweapon stuff has happened, all of the claims for which everything from the COVID 2.0 and all these other bioweapon stuff that has happened, right? And you can follow that stuff if you do your own research. But this kind of stuff will be exposed and the world will see. And a lot of it's happening behind closed doors, but Russia is part of the cleanup. And it's being done because God is allowing it to be done. So again, be very cautious. Just wanted to give you guys this take. A lot of people putting together some research and thoughts, and more is to come. But just be very careful in these coming months, as a lot of desperation is going to come out of the deep state, the media, the elite, and just what is basically left of this financial Federal Reserve System before we move to better things. So again, as Trump says, the best is just yet to come, and more will be done to bring these people to public justice. So love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.